afternoon. Okay, there's a good connection. All right, let's talk about some of our Christian people, our churchgoers, and some of our more principled, in terms of your spirit, using spirituality for principle, rather, members of my audience. Now, I'm very, I'll always take a science-based approach. I'll consider myself a secular person in that regard. I don't want to hide behind my spiritual beliefs in order to not talk about facts. Okay? So that's why in a lot of my videos you're not going to hear that. But the reality is I do have my spiritual beliefs. And in fact, I've been going to church every single day for the last couple weeks now. Alright, that's just a little something about me. I observe things in the Christian community, though, and how their relationships go, how their idealism and how their paradigm of how they think things should go will then screw up themselves and end them into a bad relationship or whatever because of that idealism. All right? So a lot of what I'll say will speak to Christian people, so I'm going to use some of that terminology. So if you don't, jive with that, listen anyway, okay? Because I'm not a preacher, but I am speaking to that particular audience, but I'm speaking really to all of you, all right? And this is important. Now, I have a little diagram here. Now, what's funny about this is I had to, because of the way the camera is, it's front facing, I had to write this dyslexic backwards. So it really messes with me when I look at it because it's all backwards to me in my eyes, but to you guys, you can read what it says. But anyway, all right, so what we're going to talk about to start off with is how women in their biological drivers for mating selection. Okay, now understand from a secular level, that's how God made you. Okay, you're made this way. Science says so, but it's not just but it's not because science necessarily made it happen. If you're a believer, it means that that's how God made you. Okay, so this is how you're made. Now you can reject the evidence and all the research and what's out there that tells you how you're made, and then you're going to set yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? So don't do that. All right, you're given information, you're given data. Let's use it so we can be happy and healthy and get what we want. Okay, so what we have here are 5 categories. Okay, these are 5 needs or wants. They're primal needs, we'll call them. That when women are mate selecting, these 5 things are always in operation or playing a role. Now, these 5 things came from a psychologist, and I would cite the source, but I cannot remember who it is. And so I've been using this for so long that I don't remember. It was kind of obscure, to be honest. And so what I'm going to do is I will eventually go backwards, do another video, talk about this, and then I will cite that source for you when I figure out who it was. Because you got to understand, I read about a book or 2 a week, and I'm not always the best at citing my sources. Because this is kind of open source discussion, correct? So here are 5 categories. Now, when guys mate select, it's much more narrow. Okay, we're looking for genetic markers or qualities that she's going to be a good partner and a good mom. But basically, is she a viable genetic option for mating and having babies? So that means, is she hot? Okay, so things that we see as pretty or hot are indicators of making good babies. All right, so that's the kind of the first thing that passes through a guy's mind. Is she hot? Am I attracted? And then, of course, feminine qualities that would indicate that she would be a good mother and also a good partner. Like, that's kind of all we want to know. Is she hot, and is she kind of a good person? Now, loyalty is important for dudes. Respect is important for guys. In fact, if a guy doesn't feel respected, he knows deep down in his core he's actually not loved by her. All right, and that's a real important thing. So all you women who like to disrespect your men constantly, understand every time you do that, you're basically sending a message that you don't love him. All right, and he feels that, and he might, and his reaction is going to be according to that feeling. All right, but anyway, that's dudes. We're going to talk about women now. Women are more complicated. We know this. Women are a bit more complex. They don't just see a hot dude and go, okay, cool, I'm going to marry him, There's a whole vetting process that goes on in a woman's head, all right? And this is based on a lot of research and stuff, and how their hindbrain, or their most primal parts of their brain, operate. Now, depending on where they are in their age, one or two of these things will be in the forefront. Okay, so for example, a really young girl who is, basically out in the sexual marketplace dating or whatever, she's not thinking of her future. She's not thinking of necessarily, she's not necessarily thinking of like growing old with somebody. I mean, if you ask her questions about it, sure, but that's not in the forefront of her primal mind when she's like 21, 22. She's actually thinking about sex needs primarily, and then love needs. And it goes back and forth between love and sex needs. And this is why 21, 22-year-old girls are emotionally crazy. Not just they are. They're emotionally all over the place. Okay, and now if you're a Christian, person who puts up barriers for sex, that means you're not going to have sex and you're going to abstain from that. That's fine. I'm not saying you're out there going and having sex with a bunch of people, although most of you are, all right? But there are some people that won't do that, and that's fine. It's not judgment or anything on your choices, but it's just about your drive. So a younger girl is not necessarily thinking about, she's not settling down with the guy she wants to marry. She's hanging out with the bad boy that she's sexually attracted to, okay? And the guy that she sees as just maybe a little bit better than she is, a little bit more of a dominant guy, and that's where this love stuff comes in too. Whereas maybe if she's like about 30 years old, let's just pretend, okay, that, a little different than a 21-year-old, she might be now realizing that a lot of her choices when she was younger weren't always the best, and now she's going to be looking more for a good dad, which is paternity, or more for security. So someone's going to secure their long-term happiness, someone who's a good provider, someone who's good husband material, you know what I mean? And then paternity, like someone who's going to be a good dad, so on and so forth. And the last one, LEG, that's legacy. So basically loyalty. So is he going to stick with you as you age, or is he going to dump you when you're 45 years old and then go be with a 25-year-old, right? I mean, that's what women are looking for. So a woman who's past, let's say she's 40 years old or something, and she's recently divorced or whatever it may be, she's actually looking for probably a legacy partner as kind of a primary thing, is a guy that's going to want her for her, even though she's no longer 21 years old, and who's going to kind of stick around, And so that's what you have, all of these qualities, okay? All of these needs, if you will, all right? Now, these needs fall into traits that males could have, okay? We can call them alpha traits or beta traits. Alpha is kind of your more dominant, less emotional traits, okay? So alpha is your dominant leadership traits, okay? Whereas beta is more of your, we'll say, caring, to not put a negative connotation on beta, we'll say that's more of your emotionally supportive and caring traits, all right? Now, a stable man has to be mostly this alpha guy with sprinkles of this, so he can satisfy all 5 of these needs if he's going to last in a long-term relationship, all right? Most guys, however, are this, and they're trying to be this, and then that creates a massive problem, okay? So here's what ends up happening then, right? So because religion is good at protecting people, the morality is there to protect people from harming themselves. They would say spiritually, I would agree with that, but from even just a psychology, social science perspective, harming themselves on an emotional level, harming themselves on a traumatic level, religion can protect, especially women, protect them from doing that. So they go on these principles that will stop them from maybe acting on a primal drive that could hurt them in the long run. All right, so that's a benefit, I would say, to religion. Because see, if a woman's long-term goal is long-term happiness in monogamy, if she wants to be with a husband for the rest of her life and she has that dream kind of a thing, well, she has to set up the conditions around herself for that to happen, all right? And that includes within the relationship, because monogamy will not happen on accident. We have biological drives for mate switching, for polygamous behavior, as well as biological drives towards monogamy. You get what you feed. And so with the morality of religion, it sets up, that's just one benefit. It sets up the conditions for women to not practice mate switching and more polyamorous behaviors. So by not feeding into those drives, they're feeding more into monogamous drives. So when that woman, let's say that young girl who's 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and she, even though her drive tells her to sleep around, her drive's like go have sex with people, but she has a set of morality that says, no, that's not going to help your long-term happiness. And so she suppresses that drive for long-term happiness, and then in the long run, she's more potential to be happy in monogamy because she didn't practice these polyamorous drives. Now understand, I'm just speaking from more or less scientific perspectives. You can take this information and do whatever you want with it. Some women there are women out there that don't want a monogamous relationship. They're not that high percentage-wise comparatively. Most have the ideal of monogamy, but there are women that don't want that. Okay, that's what they say, they don't want that. So if you don't want that, then, whatever. But if you do want that, then it's whatever. But just understand that these are just the facts, okay? So don't get mad at me because it doesn't fit your little weird paradigm, okay, of how you think things should go, all right? So factually speaking, these are all drives. But again, primal drives doesn't mean moral. Do you know what I mean? Primal drives doesn't mean setting out long-term success. When someone cuts me off in traffic, I have a primal drive to get out the car maybe and beat the shit out of that guy, okay? That could, if somebody does something wrong to somebody else or does something that's, violent or does some level of injustice, I might have a primal drive that could put me in jail. Does that mean I do it? No, of course not, okay? So when we talk about primal drives, we're not talking about goal setting. We're not talking about setting yourself up for long-term success, okay? So if your goal is monogamy, marriage, and that long-term success, it's important for you to understand what your drives are and then what to do with them, okay? Now, the point of the video, so we understand all of these drives here, okay? So the point of the video, though, is how do Christians tend to screw themselves up? Now, understand that the divorce rate and basically failure rate for marriages and for relationships in general is identical in the Christian community than it is in the secular community. So nobody gets a high ground here, all right? Nobody does. So there's something wrong, okay? There's something wrong with relationships all over the place, whether you have your faith and whether you don't. And I think you set yourself, my personal opinion, because you set yourself up with moral principles and you set yourself up with the conditions around yourself for monogamy. I think that having more of a spiritual approach to marriage and relationships is going to set you up maybe for long-term success. That's my opinion. But that's just an opinion. The statistics don't bear out. The reason the statistics don't bear out is because mistakes are being made, both on the secular side and on the Christian principled religion side, okay? And so here's the biggest mistake, in my opinion, of what is denied or screwed up, what ends up happening, okay, to screw up the Christian marriages, all right? And being some traditional conservative guy or tradcon yelling about moral principles is not going to stop this from happening, all right? But the biggest problem we have is this right here, that, sex. Sex is neglected as a key component to satisfying all these needs in a female, all right? There's an assumption that if you follow all the rules and you're a good boy and she's a good girl, that this thing will work itself out. I'm going to tell you right now that assumption is wrong, okay? So here's why, all right? And we can use it, I'm going to use both secular reasoning as well as more or less, we'll say spiritual or Christian theological reasoning, okay? All right, so sex cannot be like your arousal, your primal arousal or drive for another person, especially hers to you, cannot be negotiated, okay? There's no amount of, you're not going to be able to earn a woman's attraction or say arousal. She either sees you as a sexual being that she wants to have babies with or she doesn't, okay? That is not something that you can negotiate. You cannot nice guy or friendship your way into her pants. You cannot do that even if you wait till marriage, Okay, it just doesn't happen that way because attraction and arousal exists in the primal parts of the brain. All right. Now that's this. So what a lot of guys though will do, a lot of your tradcons here will try to be a better man over here. Okay, they'll try to be more moral, more principled, go to church more, be more honorable, which is great. Okay, they will try to be a better dad. They'll try to be nicer. They will try to throw their board on the ground. Okay, I don't want to do that. They'll try to be like more supplicating to women. They'll try to be this better, nicer, blah guy because they think that they're going to nice guy their way into love and sex. But as you see, love and sex is an alpha trait. You can't. She's going to have these tingly feelings and this emotional draw to a dude who's alpha. All right, to a dude who is a dominant guy. Who's demonstrating leadership qualities rather than necessarily emotionally supportive qualities, all right? And that doesn't mean to be so alpha that you're not emotionally supportive. I've been there. You don't want to do that, okay? Because then she'll be attracted to you, but she won't stick around. In fact, she may even hate you and resent you because you're too much of this and not enough of that. And so she doesn't have that security that she needs, that's what SEC stands for, security, to be able to want to stick with you, to believe she can keep you in a commitment. So she'll end up breaking it off with you if she's, maybe before the wedding or after even, and she's going to be really upset because you're too much of that and not enough of that, okay? Not enough sprinkles of that, all right? So, again, but the fact of the matter is being more of a dominant guy, being more of a leader, being that dominant guy, being more of a leader, okay, being your one mental point of origin, going out and killing your goals, all right, working on yourself as a man and making decisions for the betterment of the family unit and yourself and being and having that dominant leadership quality. And that means telling her no. That means not placating to her. That means being the leader, okay? And not being swayed or moved because she's pretty and she wants you to do something different or whatever, or this or that. If it's not the best decision for your relationship, for your family, you stick to the decision that's the better one, okay? You're going to be an alpha dominant guy. That's what's going to earn the sexual, that's what's going to earn the love part anyway. Or I say greater your chances for the love and the sex part to work out. If you are the best version of yourself and the most alpha dominant version of yourself, if you execute dominance in your relationships. Now, some women are too dysfunctional to really even understand or accept that alpha dominance, and they're probably, as much as you might care for them, not the one for you, okay? But regardless, like I said, this sex here cannot be negotiated. And guys try to negotiate it by making themselves into a better beta. And they think that they're going to earn their way into being sexually attractive to the female. And I promise you it's not. And even if she's never had sex before and she waited till marriage, there's still going to be a sexual arousal draw towards somebody. And if it's not you, it could be somebody else. And that's going to get her to question the entire relationship. So the crux of the matter is having too much of that or I don't say having too much of it in the confines of a relationship. That's healthy, but using this the wrong way can destroy a female's ability to be in a commitment or to do well. However, to ignore this is also a recipe for disaster and unhappiness later on. And understand that women initiate 75% of the divorces. So women are the ones who are deciding that they're unhappy and ending it most of the time. And most of the time, it's because this, in the Christian side of it, it's because this was negotiated. So here's what that looks like, okay? She's going through life. She's attracted to dudes over here, but maybe they're a little bit too alpha. Maybe they're a little bit too reckless. Maybe she's concerned about them being good Christian partners. And then it's time for her to get married, and then what happens is she gets a boyfriend. They're abstaining from sex, all that stuff, or they're being conservative about it, and they're working on all of the emotional needs. And so there's this great emotional draw, and I love him and all this stuff because he's such a good guy, a good dad, he's so loyal, he's all these things, he's a secure partner because he's not going to cheat on her maybe, and all that stuff, right? But what happens is she meets this guy who's a good guy on paper, and she has a lot of warm feelings towards him, and she feels emotionally supported in a beta sense, but he doesn't tickle her hindbrain for this or for this. Because the reality is, if this isn't satisfied, she'll never love you. She can love you like a brother, like a best friend. You know, she'll love you like her best girlfriend, okay? But if she doesn't have this sexual part and the sexual arousal towards you, then this it's not going to be the type of love you want as a man, and it's not the type of love that a wife should have for a husband. You understand? So there's a tendency to suppress this thing and not talk about it as if it's this bad thing, you know, and if and that if sex is not a big, it should be a minor part, and if you have the emotional connection, then this part's going to work itself out. But it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. Okay? And so here's what that means, and here's what that looks like. When a female, and this is not for you women, okay, and it doesn't mean you jump in the sack with a guy, all right? But when you meet a guy and you're, single on the market, whatever you want to call it, done, whatever, you just meet a dude and you want to have his babies. Like, you want to jump his bones. Now, you aren't going to. You're going to be conservative about it if you're a Christian, okay? You're going to make the decisions that fit your moral paradigm. But that desire, that raw, burning desire to end up there needs to be there. And if you're marrying the dude, guess what? That raw, burning desire needs to be there more than it's ever been for any other person you've ever been with or met or dated or whatever. That's the thing. Because there is a little thing or term called hypergamy. And I'll recommend right now Rollo Tomasi's Rational Male series to learn more about hypergamy. But hypergamy will tell you that women biologically cannot go backwards. All right? So because, and this is what allowed us to survive as a species, because of babies, all right, women want to have babies with the best possible mating option. Okay? So that means if they experience something along this paradigm with a dude, okay, she can't just now slide backwards. Particularly if she's with somebody who she's highly aroused by. Okay, so she's with a highly arousing alpha, but then settles with the nice guy that tingles her emotions. What's going to happen is down the line, this isn't going to be satisfied for her. Because hypergamy won't allow for her to slide back. And so you got to read more about that. That's a very real thing. That men don't have that thing, by the way. Like a man can be with a supermodel who's a 10, but let's say she's crazy or whatever, and then he later on, that breaks up, and he's later on with a really good 7 that he's really emotionally drawn to and attracted to. He can be happy with that 7. He never looks back. Okay? Women always look backwards. Always. And men, keep that in mind. If you're not this for her, if you're not her most dominant, best sexual option, you don't have her. That's the way it is. She could hate you, but if you're this for her, you have her. She could love you because you're so nice. You don't have her. You got to understand that. And here's why. And this is the whole point, okay? You can work on being a better dad. You can work on being, if you're not a cluster B narcissist or sociopath or whatever, you can work on being nicer, okay? You can work on being more kind, being a better communicator. You should have at least some morality and integrity, but some people have traumas and different things where they do bad stuff. But you can work on not being the bad guy. Work on that legacy. Okay? You can, and we as Christians, right? You Christians, we believe that, right? You can go in, pray, get the grace of God, and be saved, correct? And you could turn away from some of these other ways that aren't so good. So you can make yourself into a better person, which is why you go to church, which is what most of you guys are doing. And that's great, okay? That's the part you do have control over. But right here, sex, love needs, you can't manufacture that. That's the part where God made somebody a certain way, and God made you a certain way. And you either chemically and genetically fit really well, or you don't. If she doesn't have all of the tingles for you from almost the second she meets you, and I'm not saying she falls in love with you the second she meets you, but she should be massively attracted and aroused by you within a very short time of knowing you. Okay, we'll say it like that. It does grow, but it should grow very rapidly. She should want to be with you with an urgency. If she doesn't have that feeling for you, and if you don't have similar feelings for her, what that tells you is there's not a good chemical genetic fit. God made your body, mind, your neurochemicals, your scent, your height, your body type, your eyes, your everything about you, okay? You're made a certain way, all right? And so is she. And you fit together on an arousal attraction level, or you don't. You understand? Now, yeah, be the best version of yourself. If you show up and you're a 5 because you've not taken care of yourself, and she's like an 8, and she has taken care of herself, she might not notice that you might not realize you're a genetic fit because you're not the best version. You're not showing yourself as through. Who you are isn't showing through, okay? But if you're healthy, you take care of your body, you're in a good mindset, you're accomplishing your goals, you're on your sense of purpose, all right? And you present yourself well and you show up that way, she shows up that way, and there's a massive amount of arousal and attraction, that's a relationship that can survive, okay? But one that satisfies all the nice guy stuff, she'll love you like her best girlfriend, okay? She'll want to take care of you. She won't want to see you hurt, but she ain't going to want to be with you. And that's the difference. And that will catch up to you. When the novelty of the emotional support during the hard times, the novelty of the wedding day, the novelty of the honeymoon, the novelty of the first house, the first kid, second kid, so on and so forth, all these milestones. When those milestones wear off, she's getting all this stuff here, but she's missing something. And that's when she divorces you and leaves you, Christian or not, okay? And when does that happen? 7 to 10 years, right? When the milestones kind of run out or slow down. She doesn't have the distractions. And now she realizes, I love him, but but I'm not in love with him. You see what I'm saying? When you have the arousal, and she's aroused by you, you're aroused by her, because God made you both that way. Now, I'm not saying one-itis, like there's only one for you. I think that's a myth. That's not even a biblical thing. That's just bullshit stuff, okay? But God does make people, and they make people that are good genetic fits, and you don't run into those good genetic fits every single day, right? Now, you have someone who's highly aroused by you, you're highly aroused by them. It's a good genetic fit. If you choose to love each other and choose to overcome your traumas, choose to overcome hardship, choose to actually build together, choose to work on the rest of these needs for her as the male, you can survive it. There's potential for survival. But if she doesn't have this for you, she can't satisfy this need with you because she's just not genetically, biologically aroused by you. If that's the case, it doesn't mean you're ugly, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's not a character judgment. It's just that some people are a better genetic chemical fit than others. And if she is not a good genetic chemical fit, what you are is you're ignoring how God made you, how God made her, and you're living on some dreamland and some fantasy that this thing is going to work out and be a happy relationship. And I promise you, it's not gonna be, okay? So, that's the video. This is the model, okay? And that's it. Hit me up with questions, concerns. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, like it, send this to a friend, share it with your loved one, okay? Share it with your kids. You know, and it's just, and again, it's not, I'm not telling you to break your moral principles when it comes to sex. It's not the message. But the message is to recognize that arousal. Recognize it's a thing. If you're a dude and you need to make sure that the person you're picking to put a ring on is someone who is highly, highly aroused and attracted by you. And not because she's just saying so, because she sees all of these other good things you can provide for her. See, women are very opportunistic and they'll rationalize their way into a terrible situation, which is why you need to be this guy and fucking, sorry for the F-bomb, but you need to be this guy, okay, and make the decisions that she's not equipped to make, all right? So, vet your partner out. You have to do a lot of vetting. If you are going to try to wait, that's a choice. But you're going to have to really pay attention then to who you're choosing and whether or not this is a thing. And it's the biggest thing between you two than it's ever been for anybody else. And that means for her particularly. All right? And women, if you are getting married to a guy who's the greatest guy, but you don't have this for him, you don't feel that better, you don't have a higher level of arousal and attraction to him than you did from whatever ex or bad boy you were dating, whatever. If you don't have that higher feeling for him, if it is not there, then that means you are settling. You are settling. Do not settle. We all know not to settle, right? But you're doing that. You're the carrot of security and kids and all your bull crap is being dangled in front of your eyeballs, and you're going to go for the things instead of what's right, and you'll settle with this dude that you're not that excited about, and you'll rationalize it, and you'll say how not true that is to anybody who points it out, and then guess what? You'll be talking to, if it's not me, you'll be talking to a therapist in a few years, wondering what the hell went wrong. And that poor dude, if you have any give a crap for him, is putting all of his resources and emotional energy into you, and you don't like him that much. What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to that dude besides using him for that? You're hanging around with some dude, let's say, and trying to build a friend's first relationship with somebody, and this guy's head over on you, and you just really can't feel this, and you're trying to negotiate it. Not only are you settling, you're using that guy. What does the Bible say about being a user? So, dig deep. Dig deep. Open the book up. Pray. But also look at the facts. Make better choices. If you need help, some of you guys, and I've done this a number of times, are in the relationship already, and you're trying to sort all this out, and you want to know how to fix it. Well, that's what I do. So if you need help, hit me up for coaching, okay? Or let's do a free consultation. We'll see if I can actually do anything for you or provide you with some resources, all right? Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. A lot of stuff here, so I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Take care.